Hi, everybody. Today we're covering Dominican Republic. My name is Natalie with Unicorn Properties, and today we have the pleasure to introduce Freedom Builders from Dominican Republic. They're within EXP, and we're going to go through just fun facts about Dominican Republic, the real estate market, some good neighborhoods, what's happening over there, what are the investment opportunities, and how you can collaborate with our peers over there in the sunny country of Dominican Republic. First, we're going to go over some basics like we always do at the beginning of the call. Just to remind you, what's happening. To save the date, as you know, we went through, we're in our third country. It's our series of international real estate goals with the countries that EXP is in. So we have 24 countries as a homework. So far, we've gone through 2. Mexico has been finished and recorded. Spain, we just finished last week. And this week, we start with Dominican Republic for the next 2 weeks. And what I mean by that is that we have theory and practice. Oops, sorry. The theory and practice, will be, the first part will be most about anything that has to do with market trends, how the economy is doing, what the government is doing to, push the economy further. And the practice will be next week, which we'll be doing comparables, what's happening, in Puerto Plata versus Punta Cana versus, the downtown area. So then you'll see the different prices. And then we have India, of course, next in 2 weeks from now. So I'm glad Vilesh is here so he can, help us put together that presentation in a couple of weeks from now. So why is this important? Mostly because the world is changing and people are moving to different places. And so far, if you scan this QR code, we'll take you to the playlist that we have all the videos saved right now. Currently, they're public, but we'll be putting them in a different place, so it's more private. Make sure that you watch the recordings because it has a lot of information there for market research based on each country by the local people that live there, the local agents that know the market best. Currently, as you know, we're 24 countries within EXP. This is the list, and the other one is the map. And we're trying to focus mostly on the whole ecosystem that has to do with real estate, not only on real estate sales, but also, on all the objections that might come within the real estate space. This includes financing, legal, if you can own property over there, if you have to pay property, property taxes, sales taxes, and income tax for rentals. So that, yes, might be something of your interest as well. But also it has to do with construction, immigrations, and maybe property management after you buy your units in a different country. So we're going to cover overall the whole perspective, the whole, ecosystem of real estate. We're in a workplace now, so you can look for the group as international.call. It's a weekly call, and we have a workplace space now, so you can visit and join and participate and get all the updates. I'll introduce to Daryl now, and he can take it on from now on, and I can go through the slides. Go ahead, Daryl.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to this presentation on the Dominican Republic. I'm excited to present it to you today. As you can see in this picture, this is the 3 founders of Freedom Builders Global Group. And a bit about us is that we are global. We are working toward like building international networking and just reaching out to people and building that community where we know where we can send someone to Spain or to Mexico, or they can send people here to the Dominican Republic. So I'll start with myself. I'll let Hardeep talk a bit about him. So I'm Canadian. I was born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Spent most of my life there. And then the last just over 2 years, I've been in the Dominican Republic. My wife, my son, and I relocated here. Previous to here, I was in management at Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada. And a fun fact about me was years ago, I was in Bible college and we went to China and I scaled the Great Wall of China. So that was a pretty neat experience. Go ahead.
Hey everybody, my name is Hardeep. I was born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. My parents immigrated to Canada in the 70s from Punjab, India. I am married for 17 years now. I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 8-year-old son. They attend an international school here in Dominican Republic on the North Coast. So in my previous life, I was a medical radiographer that did X-ray, CT, MRI scans, and primarily MRI scans. And I supported the Richmond Hospital in British Columbia to set up their first magnet. After doing that for about a decade or so, I transitioned and wanted to be on the more proactive health side. So I decided to open up a yoga and fitness studio. So I did that for the last 5 years. Once that chapter closed, we moved here to the Dominican Republic, North Coast of August of 2023. And now I'm here working with Daryl and Oriana and building the Freedom Builders Global Group. Back to you, Daryl.
All right, awesome. And I'll give you a little bit about Oriana because she's not here today. Her son's not well and she has to take to a doctor. But she's born in Germany, Colombian German, single mom. And one of the couple cool things, facts about her, she's a member of AFIT DR, which is an exclusive group of 13 women that get to represent the Dominican Republic on the global stage. So like we recently got invited on a private flight to Colombia for NATO 24. And yeah, it's just pretty interesting to be a part of those type of events. And then her other thing is she loves to dance. She's been a dancer her whole life. All right, so we will go through a bit about us. We've touched a bit about that. We're going to talk about the currency. We're going to talk about neighborhoods, demographics, property taxes, closing costs, all those things. Comparable market analysis, and just what they're doing in the country to just modernize the beach, modernize the infrastructures and everything that's making Dominican Republic a fast-growing tourist destination. And that's just, we're going to make it easy for you guys. So right now, Dominican peso is averaging about 58 cents. It's almost 58 pesos per US dollar. So that's basically, so every time it was easier before because it was closer to 50 when I got here. So it's making it a little more difficult to make those transactions. But basically, it'll fluctuate between 53 and 59 pesos that I've seen so far. So right now with the 58, that's really good because it gets you more here with the US dollar. So that's a good thing for our economy right now, for people investing here. So some of the destinations, we have our cruise ports. We have 7 cruise ports throughout the island, a few on the north, a few on the east coast, and a few on the south. We have 8 international airports, plus a ton of more, I forget what you call them, the airports that are like within the country. But one thing that people should know is 3 of our ports are going to become home ports in the coming year for the next 25 years. So that's really driving a lot of our tourism. When I first got here 2 years ago, if you'd go a few days without seeing a cruise ship. Now you are seeing cruise ships every day as we ramp up to become a home port. And so we're seeing tourists come in, and I'll talk a bit about it in another slide, but that's helping drive our tourism here in the Dominican Republic. Right now, I would say there's 5 major real estate investment cities throughout, or areas throughout the Dominican Republic, but there is plenty more that are up and coming. But currently, Puerto Plata is a major, the north coast of Puerto Plata, Sosúa Cabarete is a big spot for expats that are looking to relocate here. Plus, we have it's good for property investment like Airbnb, because people that do come here, they feel comfortable coming here because there's a big expat community. We have Santiago, which is a major city within the middle of the island. Well, not quite the middle, but it's in the middle of the mountains. And that's a very business-minded city. Lots of business happens there. So there's a lot of expats that go there to start up businesses and everything within the community. It's one of our largest cities. Then we have Santo Domingo, which is on the south, which is our largest city. The population is around 5 million people in Santo Domingo. And that, again, is another huge business area, but a lot of expats do go there as well. It's just the community of expats there isn't as noticeable as it is in like a place like Puerto Plata or Punta Cana or Las Terrenas. So, and then that takes us to Punta Cana. Punta Cana is on the East Coast, and yeah, it is a very touristy area. It's not an area where expats are going to come move and live there. You're coming, you're buying there. If you're buying there, it's for Airbnb fully. Because we get a lot of people coming in for a week or 2 weeks, because of the beaches and everything that's offered there. And a little bit more, Punta Cana, obviously it's because of it's a tourist attraction, it is English mostly. Very touristic, short-term residence, vacation rentals, all-inclusive resort. It's through and through a beach town. I wouldn't say they have the nicest beaches in the Dominican Republic, but they do have really nice white sand beaches. So that's what draws a lot of the people there, is that nice crisp white sand beach, where in other areas you got nicer beaches, but they're not as white. And so some tourists they like going into that white sand beach. That's why I think Punta Cana is a very popular spot. And then Santo Domingo, Spanish mostly. So if you're gonna go to Santo Domingo, just learn Santo Domingo or Santiago. You're gonna want to learn some Spanish to help get you by, because a lot of people in those areas do not speak Spanish, or sorry, English or other languages. It's just mainly just Spanish. But we do have long-term residents in both areas, but mostly because of the business opportunities there and people who come here to create businesses, the large-scale businesses. And then we have the North Coast, which is multilingual. We have people from all over the world, expats from Europe, from Russia, Canada, United States. So it's very rich in its history here, but it's also rich in culture here and many languages. Even Hardeep talked about the international school. My son's going to school with kids from Russia, Germany, England, Canada, obviously United States, and probably a few other countries that I don't know about. So that's North Coast is great for that. Economic growth. So this is something that's huge. This is something for investors to really know about the Dominican Republic, because since the turn of the century, we've gone from like a less developed country, and now we are a very developing country. Every year, the growth rate of poverty, or the poverty rate, diminishes. So if you go back to 2000, it was roughly 45% of Dominicans lived under the poverty line. Today, we're at about 23%, 22% live under the poverty line. So over the last 24 years, the Dominican Republic has been able to cap or have their poverty rate, which is good, because as that continues to happen, that continues to thrive, the people here continue to thrive. But we are leading the Caribbean in economic growth over the last 12 years. We don't have 23 stats yet, but 5.8% annual average growth rate between those years. And if you look in America and the rest of the Caribbean, the average growth rate for those years was 2%. So you can see that the Dominican Republic is doing a lot to ensure that their economic stability for years to come is going to continue to grow, but be strong for the people here, but not only strong for the people here, investors that come here. And then in 2022, we had a record $3.8 billion US dollars. That was foreign direct investment. So that has risen every year since 2000 as well, except for the first year of COVID. That was the first year we've seen a decline in that number. And every year after between that has been record years. Countries that come. So that we talk about tourism. So our record number of tourists, I believe, was 8 million before, just around 8 million. Last year in 2023, we had over 10 million visitors. And of those 10 million, 78 or 7.8 million of them came by air, and the remaining came by the cruise ship. So as I talked about the cruise ships earlier, they're going to become the home ports. That's going to drive more people to this island through the air and through cruises. And so we're expecting those numbers to rise. Even from January this year, we've seen a 12.5% increase from last year's January. So if we go on that 10 point, we're looking at over 11 million people expected to come to the island this year, and that is to rise. And for an island that only has roughly 11 to 12 million people, that's a pretty significant number of tourists and investors that are coming here. Anybody that wants to buy into the Dominican Republic, this is interesting. If you bought your properties valued at $200,000 US, you qualify for the investment residency program. So you can automatically get residency just by buying property here. We have over across the island, and like I'm talking a lot of stunning beaches, but there's still a lot of beaches that are untouched. Um, they're very remote, and as the country continues to grow, those areas will get developed as well, which is prime for investors to come here and get involved before those things happen. Because once those beaches are all taken up, we know the prices are going to be just through the roof. And then bachata is certified as an intangible cultural heritage of the humanity by UNESCO. And so that's a culture thing that just recently happened in the last 5 years. And so the Dominican Republic is very proud of that. And they've been sending teams throughout the world promoting the Dominican Republic. And when those teams go, they've been sending bachata dancers to perform some dance for whoever they're presenting in front of. So it's pretty neat for that. So Punta Cana right now is our top destination. Roughly 60% of all flights fly into Punta Cana. And that you can see is that's very significant when you got 60% of our 7.8. But if you look at the countries that we have, our top destinations are United States, then Canada, then Colombia, Spain, Germany, France, Argentina, and just continues. But we have a total of 19 total countries that fly directly into the Dominican Republic. Big news just came out 2 weeks ago about Colombia. Colombia previously you could only fly into the capital or Santiago. Now they will be flying into Puerto Plata as well, giving direct flights right to Puerto Plata. So that starts in July. So that's pretty big because with them being our third most tourist, that just gives them another opportunity to check out the Dominican Republic and open up those doors to more tourism. As you can see, some of the major airlines that come through are Air Canada, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, British Airlines. We have 65 direct cities that come here. All right, next. So types of properties. So we have pre-built, we have lands, lots, built assets, so stuff that's already built or custom construction. So the pre-built developers, usually what it is, you're buying into a development that already has layouts and you just choose what layout you want, whether you want a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom condo, or in some of the projects, you'll have 2-bedroom to 6-bedroom villas that you can choose from and different models. And sometimes you can make slight variations to them, but for the most part, in those pre-built developer projects, there isn't much changes that can be made. They have to typically be made within the confines of what is already on paper planned. So you can change, like, let's say it was a 4-bedroom and you want to change it to a 3-bedroom, you can probably make a change like that, but nothing too drastic. Then the land lots, gated communities. So there's lots of land available. So you can either buy a big chunk of land, do your own development, or you can buy land, build your own parcel. Like for me, I'm in a non-gated community. I bought a piece of land and just built a house. So there's lots of opportunities for different, if you're not wanting to be in one of those gated communities, and that's where the custom construction comes in. So I bought the land and then I got the construction team that built. And so I was through the process. I went through the process of going to the architect, designing it. I gave them an idea of what I wanted, and then they created it. And then I went back and finished off meetings with them. It's okay, these rooms are a little too big, or this room's too small, and just made the design changes like that. And then started the build. And then obviously resales. We have a lot of resales in the market. Some people are cashing, a lot of people are cashing out because the prices have not dropped, sorry, risen significantly over the last couple of years. And so they're checking out different areas. Some are going to Colombia, some are going overseas. So it's a great opportunity right now because we do have a lot of resales. Type of financing. So we have seller financing or RE developer. So some of the developing projects, they'll offer 50% down, 50% financing. They're typically your more the ones that are established. A new developer, it's hard to get that type of financing because they haven't built up the capital to do it. But if you have most of the developers that have been here a long time are in a position where they're able to offer that type of loans. And then there's also homeowner financing sometimes. when it's a little difficult to get a mortgage, because sometimes it is difficult for foreigners to get a mortgage here. And sometimes it's just easier to go this route with the homeowner financing. And then you got your banks and private lenders. So banks are pretty hard to get a mortgage. Private lenders are a lot easier to get a mortgage, but the difference between the private lenders and the banks is anywhere from 3 to 8% interest. So that's why we try to go homeowner financing if we can, preferably over private lenders, because typically we can talk a homeowner into going about a 0.5 percentage point over what the bank rates are. So for developer payment, we talked a bit about that. Like I said, most of them want 50% down, 50% in financing, and usually they'll give you 4 to 10 years to pay that off. They typically do monthly payments. Some of those projects also do the management of the properties. So they're the ones, so it's very simple to pay it. They just take it out of the balance from managing the property for the rental aspect, and then the owner gets the remaining balance that's left over at the end of each month. So in a lot of those cases, that's offered with the developer payment plans. So it's actually pretty easy to ensure that everything's being covered and everything on a monthly basis. So the purchase process, we have day 1 to 31. 31 is your close date. It could be anywhere from 30 days, or we can do it as early as 30, 31 days, as late as 3 months if the buyer needs 3 months. Typically we're doing them in 30 to 60 days though. So the day 1 would be that negotiation and offer to purchase. So once you do your negotiations, you send over the offer to purchase. Once everybody signs off the offer to purchase, we're on to the next stage, which is the possibility to do a home inspection. I highly recommend doing a home inspection. I explain it, I'll go through it and explain it to my clients why they need to do one. But it's something that I will not like. My client would have to adamantly say no multiple times for me not to tell them to do a home inspection. And then it's also the due diligence time of the lawyers to look into the title and make sure that the title is clean, and then they're going to come back to us and make sure. So if you were in the buying process and you didn't get that information in the first week, I'd be on a call with the realtor or the lawyer and say, hey, what's going on with the title? Off the market, that typically anywhere between 3 and 7 days, and then we have the mortgage financing paperwork for closing, but the lawyers usually typically, or escrow lawyers, take care of all that, and then we have the title transfer at the end. Pre-construction purchase, so we have the pre-sale, so that's where you just go in, you take a look at the plans that they're offering, and or if you're creating your own project, and you just create your own plans with the architects. And then you have the promise of sale. So this one's more for a developer project. You have the promise of sale that you sign with them. Then there's typically a down payment, which is between 5 and 10%, just to secure the property, secure the condo or the villa that you're buying. And then within 30 days, there'll be payment schedules throughout the construction. A lot of the bigger projects like the condos, it's based on where the development's at. So let's say it's a 5-story building. They might say, okay, once we hit the 2nd story in grayscale, we need another 15%. Once we hit the floor 5, we need another 30%. Once we get all the finishings in, most of the finishings in, we need a more percentage. So a lot of it's a timeline based. So you don't pay unless they're hitting the milestones. I know in the past, and we only work with reputable developers that we know have a history of completing projects, because that's something you have to be obviously concerned about. We'll talk about that a bit later, but that's the good thing about not having to put it all up front. And then at the end, you just pay the property transfer tax or the title transfer tax and it gets appraised. And most developers guarantee 1 year post-sale to ensure everything's good. Property taxes. So a lot of people want to know what property taxes. So in the Dominican Republic right now, and this changes every year, usually goes up. But right now it's at 9.8 million pesos. You're exempt from paying property tax on the first 9.8 million pesos. And so that's about, right now it's equivalent to 166,500 US dollars. This is, so some people are under the assumption if they buy 5 properties on each property, they're exempt. No, it's a one-time exemption on all your properties. So if you own 5 properties, you only get exempt on the first 9.8 million of the total property value. Now, a way that people go around that is they put the properties in corporations. So each corporation has its own tax bracket, and that's instead of it being in individual names. 3% property transfer tax, title transfer, that's applied to transfer the title on the purchase of a property, whether it's pre-construction or a resale. Once the title gets transferred, there's 3% of the purchase price that has to be paid for that. And then something that this is a newer law, confiture. So confiture allows for developments that meet requirement to be tax exempt for 15 years. So any property with confiture is non-transferable unless the property is owned by a corporation. So that means if I go and buy a property that has confiture, I'm gonna be the first time buyer. And if I put it in my name and then 2 years later I go to sell it, confiture for the remaining 13 years doesn't go to the new buyer. But if I buy that and put it in a corporation name and someone buys with a corporation and buys the property through with the corporation, then they get to keep that 15 years. That exemption, so you have the exemption on 3% property tax, exemption of tax on rental income, and you also qualify automatically. We talked about the 200,000 residency visa before. Anything that's confiture, doesn't matter the price, whether it's 100,000 or a million, you qualify for residency visa. So just to give you a case study on the confiture versus non-confiture. So if you have the same valued house at 366,500, without confiture, your land transfer tax will be 10,500 US dollars, and your property tax per year will be $2,000. So if you had confiture on that property, you would save $40,500 over the 15 years. And that's not including, if it's a rental property, the taxes you save on rental income. Buyer closing costs. So in the here, the buyers have a closing cost. Their closing costs are just 1% legal fees. That's lawyers do your title checks. They do all the paperwork. They make sure everything's in good order. But they also, a lot of times we have to have money that come in, and the lawyer that we deal with, most lawyers have their own accounts that we fund. Like we'll have the client send the money into the escrow accounts through that lawyer. So there's some cost involved in that that they have to do. So that covers all of that. And then you got your taxes of 3% title transfer tax. So 4% in total. And then capital gains, so only applied to properties values over 9.8 million, is 27%. I know in Canada it's roughly around the same. I'm not sure about the United States. One of the things I get from people is, oh, I don't pay property tax, or I don't pay capital gains in Canada. But some people just don't realize on our primary home, we don't pay property taxes, but on any secondary property, we pay capital gains taxes in Canada. So like here in the DR, it doesn't matter. If it's your first home, your primary home, you have to pay 27% if you sell it. And that's just on the difference on what you bought it for versus what you sold it for. Construction, so construction, 30 years ago, it was a free-for-all. Now it's a lot more regulated here. You have to get the legal permits, the city approvals. Like just to remove a tree on my lot, I had to get city to stamp off on it and give us the okay to remove a tree. So everything's done with the permits and approvals, and like it's about a 20 to 30 page thing with different approval stamped off for water, electricity, infrastructure, the creative process, everything has to get stamped off. And does that mean that people still don't build without permits? Yes, people still build without permits. But if you're buying into a project, I can guarantee you none of the projects will allow a construction without permits. And if you were to buy your own pre-construction, I would say make sure you have all the permits, make sure you have everything in place, because then you know that your construction is being constructed to the proper standards. Cost of construction is typically 1,200 per meter squared here, roughly. Now, if you go with very high-end finishings, that price is going to go up. Or for people that understand square feet, about $111.50. And then our pool is about $2 per gallon. It's a little less than $2, but we just kind of average it out. So that price, it will give you the full house built, gray, everything. It'll give you the final finishing, doors, windows, tiles, bathroom, etc. What it won't give you is it won't give you your bath, like your appliances and stuff like that, your bedroom sets, your furniture. But that's going to get you, those prices are going to get you everything done, move in ready. You just have to fill it after. But obviously, if you wanted to go with higher end stuff, those prices are going to go up. So on 100 meter squared construction, you're looking at $120,000. On a 10,000 gallon pool, you're looking at about $20. Or sorry, 20,000 US dollars. Go ahead, yeah, go, sir. $20. Okay, so these are things that we want you to watch out for when you're doing real estate in the Dominican Republic, because we want our clients and investors to be fully aware that there is risks, and that's why you need a trusted agent or a trusted brokerage that you're working with that work with trusted lawyers and or notaries. So there is no MLS system here. So in Canada, United States, we can go and look at databases and see the prices. So someone who's coming in here doesn't know much about the markets here, don't know the prices. And so as an agent, or your agent should know what the prices fluctuate around and be able to give those comparables. And if they're not giving you comparables, then there might be a chance that they're increasing the price of the value of the property, and it could be telling you it's a great sale. So it's not regulated, so there's no rules set in place. So in that same scenario, I tell you, hey, this is a great buy and it's 400,000, but really should be selling for 300. There's no system in place to go after the realtor that just misguided you or lied to you about things. Where I know in Canada, they can go to, or Ontario for sure, they can go to ORIA and put in a complaint, and you could lose, the realtor could lose their license over something like that. Title issues, there is title issues, but a lot of them have been getting resolved. If you go years ago, there was a lot of title issues, but most properties nowadays, especially if you see a title that is blue, if you see a blue title, you're good to go. If it's still one of the older ones that have been around for 100 years, 150 years, that old system, those are the ones that the lawyers really need to look into. But if it's like I said, if it's a blue copy title now, and it's got the stamp off of the government, it's pretty good. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't liens on the property. It just means that we know that title's good by just seeing that one. Property scams. So in the past, with those older titles, we've had issues with property scams. Not everything that shines is gold. We talked about doing home inspections. You can walk in and someone can make a place look pretty, but you want to make sure the home inspector goes through and checks everything and make sure that that shiny gold over there is actually gold and not rusted steel. Over promising, under delivering. Hey, if it sounds too good to be true, it's most likely too good to be true. If someone's saying, hey, you're going to buy this for $100,000 and you're going to rent it out for $10,000 a month, do some comparables, check things out on Airbnb, because it happens here, and they'll promise you the world and make you feel like, man, I am going to make $1 million off this $100,000 property, and it's just not going to happen. You can expect an 8 to 10 on a good property. You can expect 8 to 10%, and that's a good property. On the average here on the island is between 6 and 7%. Time is relative. Currency exchange rate fluctuates. So that's a big one if you're building. Right now, the American dollar is very high, so it goes a long way over here. But if suddenly over the next 3 months, that price goes from 58 pesos down to 53, that's going to put a big burden on the builders. And so in a lot of contracts, you'll see the builder say, if the currency fluctuates, by 5%, that there will be like fees added to the construction cost. So it's good to know those things and good to know your fees and what it's going to cost if that were to happen. Now that doesn't, we don't see massive fluctuations. It was 53 54 pesos for a long time, and then in the last 6 months it's risen to 58. The US economy's been very strong, like the stock markets and everything, the last three to 6 months. Infrastructure, no water, electricity. So we don't have a lot of sewer systems, stuff like that. So we run off well water, septic beds a lot, and it's making sure that you're in an area where you can do wells, because some areas you can't do wells. It's like if you're up in the middle of the mountains and you're trying to dig for water, you know it's going to be impossible. So you got to make sure that they've done the test, if it's a project, that they've done testing in the area to make sure that they have the well water supply for you and all that. And then landlocked issues. We don't have too many landlocked issues right now. There is a lot of land on the island that has no road access, and you could buy that land. But typically you're gonna know it. You should know that. I hope the realtor would tell you, hey, this land's a great price. It's $10, but it's a great price because they don't plan to build a road for 10 years. Now it's a great investment for down the road if you're looking at that. But if you're looking at an investment for 6 months from now, then not so good. Agents steering personal benefits. So this happens a lot down here. Agents don't want to work with other agents. It's a free for all. You can have 30 agents listing a house, or you can have an agent, he's got his listing, he's got it 10%, and the house next door is 5% because he has a co-broke with someone else. So he's not going to take his agent to the house next door because he wants to make 10%. And so like make sure that you ask those tough questions. Okay, what? I showed you a listing and you said it wasn't available or something. Sometimes they will lie to you to get you to buy what's best for them. An agent that is reliable, wants to work for his clients, and wants to make sure his clients are successful, and will show everything in their clients that's in their price range and their budget to make sure that they find the best property for them and not look out for their own pocketbook at the end of the day. A lot of local real estate agents, they don't actually own property down here where they sell. Quite a few do, but not in the days gone by. I don't think as many did, but now I think more do. But you still got to watch out, because if I'm selling in Punta Cana, but I live in the North Coast, it might be harder for me to know what's available down there. Now we do have connections down there. We do work with some people down there, but if I didn't work with someone, you'd probably be better off going to another agent that's from that area, knows the area. Communication issues. Some realtors simply won't answer. That's a big issue if they're not giving you the answers you want, and like that's a red flag right there. Make sure that you're getting the answers you want, and it's not just sounds good all the time, because sometimes they'll make things that sound good. Language, culture, terminology differences. This is a hard one. Sometimes what you think they understand, a local would understand it because they speak good English. They don't, English is still their second language. So just like Spanish is our second language for our as expats, sometimes, we don't pick up on the language and they don't pick up on our language, and it can lead to miscommunication. And so it's very good to make sure that you have very good, strong communication and make sure everybody understands what the results should be. Another thing is locals here, love them, love the Dominican Republic, love the people here. They're so amazing, but they do not know how to say no. They don't want to say no to you, and they don't want to disappoint you. So they'll say, yes, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. And meanwhile, they can't do it. And it's just, so you got to be weary of that, because if you go and have a guy build your furniture and he says, I can do it in 2 weeks, chances are it's going to be 3 months. And if you can't handle 3 months and you're going to lose your mind, it's not the place to be, because you want to work with them. You don't want to, because if you're not working with them, if you get mad at them, you start yelling at them, this and that, then they, oh, I don't want to deal with this person's crazy. So be wary if they say overpromise, and it's just because it's a culture thing. They don't want to disappoint, and It's not a bad thing, but typically if they say 2 weeks, you're looking at a little longer than 2 weeks. Not all attorneys are made equal. This is true in days gone past. Nowadays, most of the attorneys are pretty good, but there's still some issues where lawyers are representing the buyer or the sellers on personal matters, and they won't disclose issues with the property. So a good real estate agent will request the title. Once the title, like a recent copy of the title, and make sure that everything is up to par and everything is good to go. Now, one of the lawyers we deal with, never had an issue with them, but there is lawyers here that if they're dual working with a client, they will not foreclose information that they should be in some instances. So it's good to make sure you're working with reputable attorneys. Person-to-person recommendations is all anywhere in the world. If someone's recommending someone's because they did a good job. So it's always good to take those personal recommendations and give it some weight. Not always. Sometimes it's your brother on Facebook recommending you, but it's usually typical good for if someone's giving a recommendation. And then this is just to get to know us a bit more. If you want to reach out to either one of us, there's our QR codes. You can scan each one of them and then send us, a message. It's going to take you to our individual Instagrams, Facebooks, our WhatsApp number, our email, all that type of stuff. So those are our individual ones. So you can just reach out to us anytime and we'd be glad to help and take any questions you guys have. And then the next page is our YouTube channel. So this link will take you straight to our YouTube channel so you can see up and coming stuff that we're putting on. So we're going to start doing some podcasts soon and about real estate here in the DR and with clients, past clients, stuff like that. So that's going to all go on there. Plus our obviously our listening videos and stuff like that. And then this is just our YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all for Freedom Builder. So that link right there will take you to our website. Our website has all those, has all the links for our YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And then, yeah, that's just to get in touch. There's further ways to get in touch to us there. If you just want to, if you go through one of these avenues, it could be Hardeep, Oriana, or myself that get in touch with you, but one of us would. And we might direct you to an agent that would be working with us. Either way, you're going to get reached out to. And guys, that's the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned a lot and have questions. Just reach out to us and let us know. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daryl, and thanks for the presentation, for all the insights.
Thank you.
Please do scan the QR codes so you can contact them faster. We in Latin America love WhatsApp over anything else. So do email us, text us, or just message us. I think Oriana entered the room for a bit, but I want to stop sharing now and we're going to go stop recording. Thanks for being here.